Production funding for Arts Upload has been provided in part by Muriel McBrien Kaufman Foundation, Hall Family Foundation, Francis Family Foundation, John W. and FEE Spies Memorial Trust, the H&R Block Foundation, Richard J. Stern Foundation for the Arts, Courtney S. Turner Charitable Trust, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Randy Mason.
And I'm Maris Aylward. Welcome to Arts Upload.
This week we're settling in at the Uptown Arts Bar
to show you a creative couple whose newest venture involves the grape.
Plus a poet named Nick Gavecci and an A-League dancer who's doing very well in Vegas.
That and more all ahead on the Upload.
Stories about creative couples who both have very cool jobs are just hard to resist.
Take Jerry Eisterholt and Kate Garland. One designs museum exhibitions, the other restores art masterpieces. And together, they're partners in a different venture altogether.
As part of our effort to cover the arts more completely, we've teamed with KC Studio Magazine, which profiled Jerry in their January-February issue.
And now producer Ashley Holcroft uses the power of video to reveal the ways these two go about their work separately and together.
Meet Jerry Eisterholt. He holds a degree in design, photography, and agronomy, was the third best soil judge in the Big Eight, and is the owner and lead designer of Eisterholt Associates, a museum exhibition design firm that has worked with everyone from the Universal Islands of Adventure Jurassic Park Discovery Center to the Rosa Parks Museum and countless others.
When I started, there wasn't a school where you could go and study museum design. The quip I make is that it was all due to bad guidance counseling, that no one told you that you were supposed to get a job in what you were trained to do. In my naivete, thought you would get a job in something you thought you were interested in, figure it out.
Fortunately, that paradigm has been a very successful one for Jerry.
The mindset you start with is naivete and stupidity, because you don't know much about it. But as you sort of come to learn it, you have to kind of keep mental breadcrumbs as to how you came to learn and understand it and recreate that experience.
Take the American Museum of Tort Law. How do you best parcel out a branch of the legal system for the casual patron?
We created a series of graphic novels where each different case was assigned to an artist or an illustrator. Well, the concept took about 5 minutes, but the museum we've been working on since 1999. There's a couple of categories of cases that we talked about. This is the one that sort of established the principle of an attractive nuisance. It was a much beloved case, the case of the flaming rat. One of my favorites is not shown here, but it's the legal phrase is res ipsa loquitur, which means the thing speaks for itself. We try not to just do the same old design solution. That means you have to some extent, kind of think things through from first principles every time.
Like, say, when the Johnson County Museum proposed moving the approximately 1,300 square foot all-electric house to a new home inside the old King Louis.
Some of the issues that we're trying to solve at this very, very early stage is simply how people are going to move around in the exhibit, and generally how the content's going to be treated. And we're also trying to figure out a graphic treatment, because one of the things everyone assumes that history is sepia-toned. And, you know, we're talking about the 50s and 60s when there was a lot of color. There was a lot of attraction to the suburbs back then. And we're trying to, to give people a sense of what it was like back then. You want to look at the trends that were happening in, say, transportation or education. And then whenever those trends were disrupted, you know, what made that change happen? And was it an idea, a person, a technology, or what have you? And that gives you, those are little lessons that you can learn so that when you're thinking about whence Johnson County is going in the future, where might those changes come from? I guess I would say that the field in general has been confusing enough that it's retained my attention, because you're always learning about a new topic.
Jerry's other passion started when he found a book by famed viticulturist T.V. Munson.
This is the vineyard. We are located here, so that I could also pursue, in the spare moments, this little experiment with Native American grapes. As a kid, growing up on a little farm, mid-Missouri, we were upstream on the Gasconade River from Herman. So, it's basically the German culture that says you have to make wine out of something. So we did, in that case, out of wild grapes, which I recall to this day were pretty good and better than the Manischewitz, etc., that you would, find at the store that was American. T.V. Munson bred grapes out of the Native American stock that was found in the Midwest. So out of that, he was growing hundreds of varieties. It's like in a bird book. Some have larger ranges and some smaller ranges. And Concord will grow everywhere, but that's not what we're really interested in. There are others that have much more restricted ranges, but they all overlap here. In this Little Dixie by the Missouri River, it's a relatively little warm node on the planet, and the soil is very mineral rich and deep and conducive to grape growing. So you put that together with the sort of missionary impulse that came out of doing museums for cultural definition. I figured these grapes also needed to have their say. This just seemed like an exploration in genetic diversity that needed to be undertaken, and I was in a position to do it.
A notion which prompted the name Terravox, or Voice of the Land. And as most will attest, wine is best when properly paired. So too with Jerry.
We have friends who like to describe us as food and wine. And so Jerry does the wine part and I do the food.
But that's hardly all she does. From the hours of 7 to 3, Kate can be found at the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, where she's the senior conservator of objects, making incredible discoveries.
We were asked to clean off some of the corrosion products to reveal this gold surface. And so I very carefully under the microscope picked it off with a scalpel, and it's sort of like removing rust. It's very hard to do, and you have to do it very carefully so you don't scratch the metal underneath. And one of the real pleasures of this was not only revealing the gold, but finding the fingerprint of the last person who actually handled this before it was wrapped in the silk cloth.
From burial antiquities to caring for an intricate 16th century altar.
This is another one of my favorite projects. It's a shrine from India, and it had been in storage for so long that nobody quite remembered it. It was all in pieces, and the curator wanted to explore what we could do with it. I mean, is it possible to clean it? It was filthy. It looked brown. It was not at all interesting to look at.
It took Kate and a colleague nearly 2 years to etch away the centuries of grime and reveal the dazzling handiwork beneath. But ironically, while Jerry and Kate's work both hinges in the museum scene, their approaches couldn't be further apart.
We're kind of professional enemies, actually, because designers want to show art in the best possible way, and they want it on display for a long time. They want lots of light so people can see it. They want to do fun things with the artifacts, and conservators tend to be, well, that's not really a good idea. We're about the preservation side of it, and can't we just put it in the basement in storage and not ever have it out so it'll last forever? So it's a bit of a conflict professionally, but we get along really well.
As of last night, we still had the ability to make each other laugh. I think we appreciate the simpler, quieter things in life, although she might not believe it sometimes with the pace that goes on. But there is an appreciation of just being able to sort of sit and have a good meal and a little conversation.
I never thought I'd stay in one place for as long as I have. I always thought I'd be traveling around and what they call a conservation gypsy. Jerry's worked really hard at trying to make it work for me in every way, too. So it's his dream, but it's also mine.
And as for the dream of American heritage grapes at Terravox,
we hope this will be sustainable, and we have to figure out what that means. With vintages of 2 cases, it's not like we can establish presence on a shelf in a retail outlet. So people have to be willing to come up here and explore along with us, and we'll either find those people or we'll go and make a nice lawn if this doesn't work out.
The Uptown Arts Bar has opened its doors to a variety of different presenters, from Beth Bird's cabaret shows to potluck productions, belly dancers, and improv acts.
In fact, in 2013 and 14, the Pitch honored them for having the best open mic in the city. Poetry has always been one of the staples.
The Poetic Underground and Poetry Slams are a regular feature here and actually have helped us find some of the spoken word artists we've showcased on Arts Upload.
Like the one you're just about to see, Nick Gavecci.
His poem's called With Great Privilege. Justin Bond is the producer and videographer.
Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. And small minds discuss people. First Lady Roosevelt, 1948. And between Eleanor's sentiments and where Mrs. Parks benched, the strongest ideas have never, ever bent to the wills of the whispered nonsense that the songs of society have attempted embedding in mankind's gifts of progress to which we once aspired so fervently. See, we rose, then fell. And between this quote from Mrs. Roosevelt to those from how Rosa felt under the imposing belt of an ignorant culture that whipped her and her kinfolk again and again with blows which dealt an unconstitutional no. All hell will break loose if you sit here. We still live in these dark agents of dark ages. Our pages are peppered with darkening cages as dictated to us through the hardships of others. Yet somehow they're always doctored up in doctorates, inscribed on these parchments by dangerously well-spoken racists, ageists, bigots, and sadists, etc. And though it's our fears that still administer ranges of blistering blows meant to squelch us, you should know that we only crush the fruits of our passions when new ideas jam our plain souls up, because we just don't listen. We don't listen when these new ideas convolute the old truths which we're used to, getting trapped in comprehensive entrapments. We become complacent and wrapped in our sheltered encampments. We let historical figureheads dictate our actions and tamper with these maximum capacities our capabilities can tap, and we claim that's how it's always been done. So play by the rules. You have to know where you're from in order to know where you're going? No. That's not entirely facts. First, you have to understand who you are before we can define where we're at. Even the brightest minds in existence once thought that this planet was flat until one radical mind got up here to challenge that acceptable platform that was comfortably palatable, and that's why we need to quit talking in circles and walk away together. Or, we could just stay here and plan for a future forever, never understanding what's best. We're just content to bicker over who's better, rehashing semantics, the same antics that have shredded us apart since the beginning of time. In order to thrive, we need to support one another and not pretend like we're playing life support as we watch while we die. So if great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people, please forget I wrote you this poem. Leave here today, but maybe, just maybe, by sitting, watching, and listening, you may have begun to do something about this yourselves. So internalize and act wisely.
Our next story doesn't actually take place in Kansas City, but it does connect via the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, which has its second home at 18th and Vine.
Bernard Gaddis danced with the Ailey Troupe in New York, and now his artistic journey has taken him westward.
He's the founder of the Las Vegas Contemporary Dance Theater, which has lately been drawing lots of positive attention in Sin City.
Alice Down the Rabbit Hole is one of those old-time grim fairy tales. It was something that was required in my high school. We were to read Alice in Wonderland. It was about this young girl who thought out of the box and didn't put herself in what society thought she should do. So that's what piqued my interest. My name is Bernard H. Gaddis, and I'm the founder and artistic director for the Las Vegas Contemporary Dance Theater. I founded a company in 2007 along with Charmaine Hunter, who was the principal ballerina with Dance Theater of Harlem. I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was born and raised, and then moved to New York City after joining the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. I remember sitting at home as a kid watching a PBS special, and I saw 7 men go across the stage and they were dancing. I had no idea that it was dancers from Alvin Ailey because I had never heard of Alvin Ailey before. But that image stayed with me and it kind of led me to dance. And then years later, I joined the Ailey Company when I was 21 and actually had the chance to do that same ballet that I saw on PBS when I was a kid. People say I found dance, but dance really found me. And it was just something that I was comfortable with. So I came to Las Vegas and I joined the cast of Cirque. Charmaine Hunter was here in Vegas. She asked me to start a company, and I started the Las Vegas Contemporary Dance Theater. What contemporary dance means, or definition, was the meld of classical ballet with the aesthetic of modern dance and with the energy that modern dance has, and that's contemporary. There are so many different types of contemporary dance companies. With Alvin Ailey, it's a repertory company, and it's the same as mine, the Las Vegas Contemporary Dance Theater. So we do the works of many different choreographers. So you would be able to come to the theater and see not only classical ballet, but modern ballets, and also jazz, and even a little bit of musical theater. So there is something for everyone in contemporary dance. My company is considered a very dramatic company, and it's because we like to send people through an emotional roller coaster. We like to have them feel joy and anger and sadness and love, lust. We should be able to move you without saying a word, to reach you and who you are as a human when we're dancing. So we should be able to connect with what it is that we're doing on stage and what it is that you're feeling, and making sure that that connection is honest and true. I always start with being pure to what the character is. So let's say if it's the White Rabbit, I'll watch how they move and their mannerisms and what it is that they do as rabbits. And then from there, I go from layer to layer to layer. So from here you go arabesque, soutenu. And then I will go into choreographing and doing movement that a human would do, and then maybe add what a rabbit would do as a twitch. Let's tie that in again from there. As far as what drives me to choreograph ballets, they come from various places, really. Some come from my dancers. Sometimes a ballet will pop in my mind. I'll see a dancer move, or a dancer will inspire me. A culture, even movies and history. So my inspiration to choreograph comes from various places, but life. I believe that it's important for a community to have a contemporary dance company because contemporary dance, or all dance, is an extension of the community. The arts and culture is an extension of who we are as a community and who we are as a human race. You can't find any race or culture that does not dance, that does not sing, or does not move, or does not have rituals. So the arts is who we are as human beings. And it also defines what a city is, the heartbeat of a city. I dream big, and I try to take those dreams and make them a reality. I wake up every morning excited about working with a group of human beings that understand and value what dance is. And that's the most rewarding part for me. And to see them grow and to achieve what it is that they set out to do. I want Las Vegas to be proud of this company, and I want them to take ownership of this company. I definitely want to give the opportunity to my dancers who believe in what it is that I do, the opportunity to have the life that I was able to be blessed with.
Our last story this week is one that just makes you feel good. Dennis Devendra lives in Central Ohio, and he's legally blind. But that hasn't stopped him from working with power tools to become a wood turner, and a very good one at that.
So I have been turning wood since 2004. Wood turning is the process of shaping wood. Now, all the tools, everything stays still, and the wood spins, and then you carve the wood with tools. And the wood that you want to use for wood turning, pretty much anything. I mean, you don't even have to use wood. You could use acrylics. People use styrofoam. There's all kinds of materials you could use. What gives you the best result is hardwoods. The harder the wood, the denser the grain, the smoother the finish. It can look pretty impressive once you get some of these hardwoods that come out with their colors. I haven't been blind forever. I didn't even know that I was going to go blind until I was about 20 years old. I have a hereditary eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa. I went blind when I was 27. Well, I stopped driving when I was 27 years old. I was doing some woodworking here in Columbus, and I was over at the woodwork store. I went and I bought a lathe and some tools and took it home, and it went okay for a while. I was making pens and getting a lot of success out of that. You know, I kind of got bored after a while, and I really wanted to go a little further with my turning. Nobody wanted to work with me because they were afraid that, you know, working with a guy who's blind, you know, that, oh, you know, you shouldn't be working with power tools. See, this is emotional for me because it's so, it's everybody tells me I can't do this. A friend of ours in New York was getting into wood turning as well, so he decided, you know, he was willing to show me how to turn a bowl. I said, oh, that's great. So we went up to upstate New York, and we put a piece of wood on the lathe, and we spent the afternoon turning a bowl. It was beautiful. I mean, I look at it now, it's pretty bad. But it was my bowl. It was a great bowl, and it was a good start. So I knew the mechanics at that point. So I brought, you know, took my knowledge and got some additional equipment and started turning bowls, and started getting a little bit better at bowls. If you walked into my shop, you wouldn't say, hey, this is a shop for somebody who's blind. It's organized. When I have my shop laid out, I have the tools in a certain spot, and I may even have marks on the handles. And so I know where all the tools are. For measuring, I have what's called a click stick, and it's just a device. It's about 6 inches long, and it clicks out at 1/16 of an inch increments. For centering, you know, when you put a piece of wood on the lathe, you need to have it centered so it's not off center, so it doesn't rock when it goes on the lathe. You know, take a circle, just a circle of wood, and exactly in the middle you put a little hole. And so when you want to center a piece of wood with a nail, you just poke a little bit of a dimple in the wood, and so that's where you know to chuck up your lathe and how to square it. Now there are safety concerns, but they're the same safety concerns as anybody. I use my touch, I use my hearing when I turn. When I'm teaching other people, and I do that now, I listen, and I have them listen. When I rough down a piece of wood, it's going to be square when it's on the lathe, and so there's corners coming at me, and I just have to make sure I know where my hands are, and so once that wood is roughed down to a cylinder, then I can put my hands on it and feel the cuts as I'm making them. I do all this stuff by myself in the shop. The only thing that I ask somebody else to do, my wife to do, is she'll put the finish on for some of the things. She'll look through and see if there's a tool mark or something like that on the wood so that I can't feel. That besides that, it's all me. It's not a matter of whether we're going to have challenges in our life. It's like, how do you deal with those? Are you going to let those challenges take you, or are you going to take them on and overcome those challenges? Stop thinking about me as a blind person, but thinking me as a woodturner who's blind.
It looks like another episode of Arts Upload has pretty much bit the dust, so time to say thanks to the Uptown Arts Bar for letting us help serve the cause.
They like to say they're dedicated to presenting original, unjuried, uncensored art every day of the week.
Next week, we'll be back with the story of a jazz man who stays really busy and a preview of Storyworks KC. Till then, I'm Randy Mason.
And I'm Maris Aylward. Thanks for watching.
Production funding for Arts Upload has been provided in part by Muriel McBrien Kaufman Foundation, Hall Family Foundation, Francis Family Foundation, John W. and FEE Spies Memorial Trust, the H&R Block Foundation, Richard J. Stern Foundation for the Arts, Courtney S. Turner Charitable Trust, and viewers like you. Thank you.